All right, this is the first time I've ever done a live, so I'm gonna have to figure it out as I go here. Figure how I can do this. Let's see. Huh. So my little phone stand isn't gonna work on this. All right, so let me see. Comments, live chat messages are visible. Okay. Does this work? Yes. Visible object messages. All right. If somebody's watching, could you put like a chat in there to see if it comes up? Just waiting for guests. Let me see here. Hold on. I wonder if I can flip the camera around. Okay, yep, I can see that. Thanks, Ed. I appreciate you. Okay, so I can flip the camera around this way. Let's see if I can do this. All right, let's see. Do I show up on the screen now? I can't see it. I can't see the thing. All right, let me see here. Yep, all right. Sideways. Flip this thing around. All right, I guess I'm just gonna have to hold it for now. Tell me if the sound gets better because I bought this little microphone. Let me see this mic works. Is the sound coming in better? I put the microphone on there. How's the sound? Does the sound better now that I put the microphone in? All right, well, that doesn't matter for now. I'm not sure like how this is all new tech for me. All right, cool. All right, so I've gotten through 3 weeks living homeless in Boston, and it's been quite a roller coaster. And I just wanted to share with everybody kind of like I guess the trajectory, because there's a lot of places you could be homeless in Boston. Um, I think I found like three main places where homeless like to live: Cambridge, kind of like Boston general, like near the Commons, that area. There's a place over near Government Center, I think, where a lot of homeless people live. I didn't get too much into that area. And then you have like South Boston, kind of off Mass and Cass area, where you're dealing with a lot of addiction issues. I traveled around as much as I could, but mainly I stayed where the majority of the resources were, which is around the Commons. There's a lot of churches that provide food. So I'll kind of run through a little bit of like how that came about. Uh, it started even before I became homeless. I went to an event over at the Commons for a company, a nonprofit called Recovery Works that helps people that are recovering from drug addiction get back on their feet, get jobs, and help them write resumes and stuff like that. They had a little event, and I met uh, a homeless woman that was living in the gazebo there, and I bought her an ice cream, and we were talking, and she recommended that I go to Park. I told her about my project, and she recommended I go to five Park Street Place for dinner when I come out to Boston. And she recommended another church that does breakfast, St. Paul's, which is on Tremont Street. So the day I went homeless was Sunday, It was the 1st of October. And that is where I went. I went to St. Paul's breakfast, 9 a.m., rode up on my bike, and like an idiot, I had like way too much gear. And I had a bag on my bike, which weighed about 50 pounds. The bag on my back was probably weighed about 100. And I just kind of went in there, had breakfast, started talking to people. They had like a little check in that they do after breakfast. And I asked people if there's any good places to sleep. And one gentleman gave me a recommendation of a church that's in Boston. And so, I went through my day and, I just kind of rode around and, it's all on the blog. I can't, like, honestly, I can't even remember what I've been doing from day to day. So I'm glad that I've recorded as much as I possibly can. Um, but I ended up sleeping at that church that night. And believe it or not, it was a really good spot to sleep. There was good shelter there. Um, there's areas where you're not really seen when you sleep. There was actually a couple other homeless people sleeping there as well. They slept in the open where people could kind of see from the street, but nobody bothered you. And that's kind of how the journey started. I met the man that invited me there had a serious alcohol problem, and he was drunk that night, very belligerent. And then I met my cameraman there who stayed for a short time. And, if you've watched, you've seen how that journey progressed, but he's out in Denver now, thanks to myself and all those who contributed, um, and helping him along the way. I know some people helped him get his phone turned back on and things. So from there, it just progressed, and I've been recording everything in the blog. So, I know I've mentioned things about policy points and, different things I've noticed. So what I'm going to do now is, just so I'm not just rambling on, I'm going to open it up to any questions if anyone has any questions. I see we got 4 people on here. And if nobody brings any questions, I've prepared for that. And I have my phone to go through and kind of recap what these 3 weeks have been, from sleeping on the beach to spending most of my time sleeping at the church and understanding, what good etiquette is while living homeless, to some of the other things I've seen and experienced. There is a lot to discuss. So these lives give me the opportunity to go through stuff. Go to my notes. If anybody's been following, is there anything that anyone has questions about? Any things they've seen? Thoughts? So to go back through the past 3 weeks, actually, I can say that one of the things I noticed is living with the homeless people over around the commons is there's a lot of food there. There's a lot of services. The churches, they have meals and little events and workshops and things during the week, but you got to bounce around. I was given worksheets, and when I hired LA as my cameraman, he took me around to a lot of places. You have St. Francis House is right there. It's right off the Commons. That's a good spot. They open for early breakfast around 6:30. They're open for lunch. It has a very institutiony feel. It has the same types of trays you'd see in a prison. You have to go through metal detectors, but they offer a lot of services. They have a clinic. They have case managers and things to help people with the things that they need. You can get your mail sent there. So it does offer a lot for the homeless people. And I've actually used those services myself, have helped me out a little bit. Um, I like the church breakfasts and lunches and dinners. I've eaten at the majority of those, and mainly the ones in Boston. But what I found is there's a few in Cambridge, and Cambridge has a large homeless population. I'd have to say that Cambridge is like the Beverly Hills of Boston, and it's like a paradise for the homeless. One thing I've noticed about Boston is luckily I was able to get a good spot to sleep near the Commons that was sheltered, but it's very difficult to find sheltered places to sleep. Everything's open. If you don't find something hidden, chances are you're going to sleep outside, exposed to the elements, or you're going to find yourself um, sleeping in a doorway or something. Especially if it's raining, it's you don't have much of a choice. So you're out in the open; people will see you. The little nooks and crannies that are there are usually taken up by other homeless people, and that kind of got me wondering. And I started thinking about like why the homeless people have to sleep outside if they don't want to sleep in a shelter. There is a shelter close to the Commons. It's called the Boston Night Shelter, and I went there one day to check in, and one of the guys, there was a big line. The guy said, "You're gonna have to wait till 8 to get a ticket, and then hopefully you'll get in." That was, it was 4:30, so it was like a 4 hour wait, and I wasn't waiting that long. Um, so it's difficult to get in there. They have a 45-person limit, and you sleep on a floor. So it really wasn't that appealing, and I really begin to think it is a little inhumane. Is if people are homeless that they're forced to sleep out in the street. I think there should be more resources. That was one of my big policy points because sleeping outside sucks. Also, what I realized is the first 2 nights I slept on the ground and it was really uncomfortable. It wasn't too cold, but I could feel my legs getting numb. And, it was hard. I kept waking up throughout the night. And LA had this little blow up mat that he used, and another homeless woman that was sleeping over at the church that we were staying at, she had a blow up mattress. So I ended up buying one from uh, Walmart. It was $50, and I used that, and it was a huge difference. And my sleep was a lot better. You're not cold. You're comfortable enough, and I found that I was sleeping better. There were a few nights that I slept on the beach by the L Street bathhouse, which is a big renovated, state funded community resource with all kinds of different workout rooms and showers and all this other stuff. It was really nice. But the thing I didn't like about sleeping on the beach is sand gets and stuff. And I really started to avoid that. I spent more time at the church. Besides one time when LA wanted to go back and put our tents up there. And in the middle of the night, some guy showed up flashing flashlights in our faces asking our names. Luckily, as soon as I opened my tent, he was gone. And that was kind of a difficult night as well because about a quarter mile down, a body was found on the beach. But that turned out to be an overdose, from what they say. So I think at this stage, I'm going to avoid the beach for the rest of the winter if I can, just because the sand gets in your stuff and gets in your boots and your socks and things, and causes rashes and things. So I really, for the most part, stayed at the church. There was one night where the one guy that invited me to stay there was so drunk and belligerent I couldn't sleep, and I ended up sleeping on the esplanade near like hidden in like near a little playground, but the cars were driving by and that was really distracting. So one thing I do have to say about sleeping outside is I don't know, maybe over time I'll get more accustomed to it. But even when I feel like I've gotten good sleep, I always have like I'm a little slow, like thinking wise. I feel a slight bit of sleeping deprivation, and I get tired in the afternoons, which is interesting. So I guess there's a lot to be said about sleeping in safely in a comfortable bed, hidden from the world. So that's something I've noticed. So yeah, like those are some really big things. Is the homeless, for the most part, are left to sleep outside. It has a psychological toll, sleep deprivation, and the majority of the homeless they don't have sleeping mats, so they're sleeping on blankets on the ground, sleeping on hard surfaces, and for what services exist, it's not a very comfortable or healthy life. And I can see how it, does damage and causes trauma over time. So that was something big I noticed. While I was spending time over on Atkinson Street, what I found is people weren't really interested in talking to me. They want money. They want to pay them money to talk. I did get a couple interviews. It's extremely dangerous down there. Heavy, heavy drug use, and the area is riddled with drug dealers that don't really like, especially, I'm a bigger white guy and they think I'm a cop. A few people asked me if I was a cop, and, that was, obviously I'm not, but, they don't believe that. So it was hard to get people to agree to talking on camera. I also offered people to do audio, but, they're not interested. The drug use is really severe. The behavior is something that I'm not used to back from my days of drug abuse. Dancing in the street, people contorted and acting erratically, and covered in all kinds of sores and like boils and like all these other awful things. It's really unhealthy. That's kind of what led me to start thinking that people shouldn't be able to just openly use illicit narcotics in the street, especially narcotics as deadly as fentanyl, methamphetamine, crack cocaine, and whatever else is out there. Atkinson Streets is just like it's just an open air drug market, and I'd planned on staying out there all night. I really wanted to, but I just never really got around to it. It's just people stay up all night, but it's just such a dangerous area, and I'm always afraid that my bike would get stolen. I do have plans for the future to stay out there and get more information from people, but I just want to make sure that I'm ready for it. Like these 3 weeks have been preparation for me for the future, just so that I'm ready to deal with some of the more uncomfortable or dangerous situations that I'm going to run into. So for the most part, I hung around the commons. Now, a good part of my time was spent with LA, who was my cameraman for a while. He was very helpful. He took me around, introduced me to different people. But one of the things is I bought him things, and it was hoping that he agreed to stay for the whole year. And he would get very cranky at times, and he wasn't happy situation. I'm kind of glad that he left, but it took a toll on me because I didn't get to do a lot of the things I wanted to do. But at the same time, I'm grateful because I was able to, through him, meet a lot of people and learn a lot about street life. So, it was good having him around, but at this point, I prefer to be on my own. I'll learn from people and talk to people, but I don't want to be attached to somebody. He could get pretty disagreeable about things. He didn't like being around certain people. He didn't want going to Atkinson Street. He wouldn't go into shelters. So that really put a damper on things for me. I only went to one shelter in Boston, and there's not a lot of bigger men's shelters. This is the Southampton, and like the entrance is right off of Atkinson Street. So that was a surprise. I never knew it was there. It's a 500 bed homeless men's shelter. So I went in there. I stayed there for a night. I got a case manager, and what I noticed, there was a lot of open beds. It was just like a prison type of feel. It's like prison on the street. They had dinner there. I ate dinner. The people were nice. There was a lot of foreign people there. I believe Haitian. I was thinking. I believe they were speaking French, and I was so tired when I walked in there. By the time I got in, got my bed at like 5:36, I was asleep. And I think I slept for 10 hours, and then I left in the morning. So that was a learning experience. I'm going to try to get into as many shelters as I can just to see what they're like. But I think that one kind of gave me a good idea and feel of what shelters are like. Now, I've heard Pine Street is good, and they're really good at helping people with transition from, homelessness, shelter living, and into getting housing. But that can be a long process. So eventually, I'm going to spend some time in there if I can get in there. If my project gets out, I don't know, I might get blackballed from certain shelters, and I guess at that point I'll have to be creative and figure out how to make it work. So that's kind of like the living side of it, moving around from church dinners. People hang out in the street. They have like the little areas, the commons, government center. There's places in Cambridge I haven't really been to. Then you have places like Atkinson Street in that part of Boston where a lot of people stay. And there's the resources connected to all that. Over Atkinson Street in that area, there's a lot of addiction resources. The Commons, there's a lot of food type, resources and resources to survive out in the street. And that's what I'm finding if you're homeless, most people will congregate to where their resources reside. So like that's kind of been the learning curve there. Now having a bike has been a godsend, especially in Boston, because everything's relatively close. Boston is small. So I've done a lot of bike riding, carrying the pack for quite a while. But I've learned, I'm learning over time how to find little tricks of the trade. Like I have a gym membership through Active and Fit with AAA. Now they bundle gym memberships. So I'm a member of multiple gyms. I can go to Planet Fitness, Blink Fitness, LA Fitness, Crunch, all those major chains. So having that Planet Fitness membership was really good because I started going there and locking my big backpack up there. My backpack's got it has, I don't know if y'all can see, it's got like this, let's see. So with this little backpack right here, it unzips from the big backpack. So I jam the big backpack into a locker. I stuff it in there, and then I unzip the little one, and I carry it around. And it's easier. It's not like I'm carrying a 70-pound bag on my back, so I can get a lot more done. So I've been doing that. There's actually an app that I found. The girl that works at Planet Fitness told me that there might be an app, so I found one. She was right. You can pay like $5 and you can keep your luggage at certain places. Boston has a lot of them. There's others, dispersed out in Massachusetts. So that's good to know. Is because you don't want to carry all your gear with you. That's what happened to LA. He stashed his gear behind a bush and somebody stole it. He got mad about it. But if you don't keep your stuff with you and it gets stolen or lost or whatever, like that's on you. That sucks. You don't want that to happen. So my stuff stayed with me unless I've locked it up. So those are good resources. Um, my friend Raphael, who I'd seen in the streets, and I spent some time with him, and he went to Pine Street to get himself back on his feet. He had just newly homeless girl kicked him out. Told me about an app called InstaWork, and you can just go on there and you build a profile, and you can find different companies will hire you to do certain work for certain periods of time. I thought that was cool. Finding work. I haven't worked. I've kind of been living off of the money I stashed away to do this project, but down the road here, I might explore different job opportunities, whatever that may be. I haven't noticed. I see people stemming. Stemming is what people like panhandling. Uh, I haven't seen a ton of it, but it is very common in the streets. Some homeless like to do that to make money. Some people have hustles, like some people play instruments and do other things to make money, which is cool. So like that's kind of, and I'll expand on that and learn more. I'll get some more interesting interactions, more people like spitting some raps or some music. The music's cool, dancing, whatever, like all that stuff. So those are some things that I've been learning. Oh, something else I've seen a lot of is blue bikes are like, gold. Like a lot of people will get their hands on blue bikes, and once they got one of those, it helps them get around the city. I've thought in the past that like it'd be a good idea to like donate bikes to homeless people to help them get around in like metropolitan areas, but I kind of wonder at this point, if that would be a wise idea. Just because if you get someone a bike, they might sell it for something, depending on if they have drug issues, addiction issues, or things of that nature. But bikes are very useful, and I've seen a lot of homeless people with blue bikes. Luckily, I was able to keep my bike safe the whole time I was in Boston. Didn't get stolen. Nothing got stolen off of it. I broke it. I broke it on Friday from riding it with the pack on. I was like 300 pounds with all my gear, and I guess that pedal just, was already a little messed up, so it couldn't handle it, and it finally the bolt snapped right off. So I got a new bike that was donated by. Let me look in here. It says 3 people are watching right now. So if anybody could like kick something in the chat, that would be cool. If not, that's fine. Because this is a really good way to get stuff out of my mind, anyhow. Um, I got a really cool road bike that was donated by Mary Keller Klebart. I hope I'm saying that, Klebart. So I'm super appreciative of that. I'm gonna put that on Facebook and everything, and say all my thank yous and tag everybody. That was like really cool. So now I have a new, super fast road bike that I'm gonna be carrying this big pack on. So we'll see how long that lasts. I don't know how good in the snow it'll be, but I'm gonna be riding it around. We've been working on collecting donations as well for other homeless through Tiffany's Recovery Incorporated, which is a nonprofit that I founded a while ago. So the board members are working on that, and hopefully in November we can come out and I can connect with the homeless communities and we can give them some stuff that they need to get through the winter. Like that's kind of going to be like the big thing is getting through the winter and being able to be resourceful and adaptable and get through that safely. And like I feel like once I'm through that, like once I'm through the winter, that's going to be, hopefully smooth sailing once it gets warmer out again. It hasn't. I have to say, it hasn't been bad sleeping outside. It's been. It's. It. I was really nervous to do this. There was a lot of fear and apprehension. But now that I'm in it, I'm glad that I've done it, and I'm excited to continue on and try being homeless in different cities in Massachusetts and connect with new people. I love meeting people. I love learning about people. Um, to kind of like go over and recap some of the policy points and things that I've said past. Um, so I've mentioned the inflatable mats for people and designated shelter spots for people so they don't have to find like safe places to sleep. Social workers and healthcare workers could visit those church meals and they could talk about their services because you got the people congregated. That's one thing that Jim O'Connell. I've been trying to pin him down for an interview. I got his number. I haven't been harassing him, but he said that you got to go to them. That Boston Healthcare for the Homeless, they have a outreach van and they go out and like that's these people like he says you live in moment to moment. I felt it myself. Where I'm stuck. Like what am I going to do next? I have to get a meal. I got to get food in me. I got to get things that I got to sleep at night. If I went through the process of getting locked into a shelter and going through that whole process, that would be different. Now, there's a lot of questions around that. Like, do they allow you to use substances in these shelters? You got wet shelters and dry shelters and stuff. So, like, these are things I'm gonna have to dig into more. But one thing I do know is if you want to help people that are living in the streets, you got to meet them where they're at. Um, Cell phones. A lot of homeless people struggle with using the cell phones. I guess we all do these days. The technology moves faster than we could possibly learn. So, you got that. I mentioned drug use. Yeah, the drug use, that was a policy point in week 2. I'm on to week 2 now. Yeah, just I don't think people should be able to use dangerous illicit narcotics in the street, especially if it's deadly and like it's causing them to have sores and rashes and boils all over their body. There should be some type of policy or repercussion where people get, you know, are forced to do treatment if they're caught doing that in the street or something just for a couple weeks to detox, maybe like an intervention in a sense. I don't want to punish people, but I want to help people. Like with LA, one thing I learned is he came out here for religious reasons and went to Salem. He was Wiccan and found out that like they weren't gonna, rally around him and lift him up, and he kind of got stuck out here. So if somebody comes out to Massachusetts and they want to go home to their home state, if they got resources or family or things like that out there, I think there should be some type of program that just gets them right back to back there instead of getting stuck out here and not knowing what to do, especially right before winter. I'm super glad that he's gotten home before it, guys. I don't. He told me he's like, oh, I know cold. I can handle the cold. I don't think he knows what it's going to be like out here in the winter. Um, I think that you know street you know behavioral health workers, social workers. I think they should spend a month or two living in the street homeless, like directly connecting to the populations they serve on some level, because this has been an eye opener for me. I've learned a lot. I've dumped half of my gear. I've learned how to sleep comfortably outside and learned what a struggle it is for people. I've learned you know, how safe it is, but how dangerous it can be. I've learned about like how people separate depending on behaviors. Certain drug users separate. You got your commons, you got your pot smokers in one area, you got your K2 smokers in another. You got people that are using more kind of dangerous drugs, kind of clicking up and kind of hanging out over here. And then you got like whole kind of communities of, heavy illicit narcotic use over in like Atkinson Street and like that. Cambridge has I went to a dinner out there, it has a large elderly population of homeless. So, there's communities out here. There's a network and there's clicks to it. It's clicky and it's intricate and it's interesting. So I think that people should have to, if they plan on working with people, they should experience it. That's my opinion. Um, let's see. Oh, and this is another big thing, and I haven't put this in. I'm probably going to do policy points tomorrow. A big policy point that came to mind. It was yesterday. I was walking with a homeless friend of mine, and this is an individual that likes to speak a lot. They talk, and I listen. And they were explaining to me like the extent of the trauma they experienced as a child in life and like just decades of homelessness. And then I realized that like there should be specialized teams of workers, social service workers, um, you know, mental health workers that just work with homeless people on trauma because it's real. Like you're talking about trauma that they have from childhood all the way up until the trauma that they've been experiencing just living homeless. Like, does that exist? Is it out there? Maybe on some levels, but it's not enough. These people need to have trauma supports because I think that would do wonders. That's what I think. That's what I've seen. Um, and this is a big thing. It was only that conversation, helped me look back and realize all the traumatic things that, homeless people have told me since I've been staying out here. And it's pretty extreme. It's extensive. And then there's just like all the little things that I've learned is you have to be resourceful. You have to be innovative and creative to survive out here. Everything is important. Um, and having better connection, I think, especially for the homeless people living out here, is very important. I think like resources exist, but it's like it's a hit and run. You get your whatever you get and then you go. But being able, like for example, LA, he talks to AI. Like he would rather talk to AI than talk to other people. He lacks connection. And I think that there's a lot of possibility for that. Like, is there enough social workers, caseworkers, whatever out there to connect with somebody and just work with them continuously for like the period of time that they're homeless and then onwards if they're able to get into some type of form of housing or whatever it may be? That's like the broken continuum of care. We need a better continuum of care. I think people need supportive helpers that are there for them over longer periods of time. I don't. I know people bounce around from agencies and they bounce people around from different casework to caseworker to agency to program, that in itself is traumatic. So I think like that's a huge thing that I've seen, and I think that having better networks and connectivity and a better continuum of care, like I've known this for a while coming into this, but like that is a truth, and many other people have told me this. So that's just sad. That's sad that in this day and age, like that isn't a thing. So, and I'm not saying some places do, but it's not enough, and it's definitely lacking. So that's a huge thing. I had to throw that out there. But just like the simplicity of creativeness, like the things that I have are very simple: sleeping bag, blow up mat, blanket. I had a pillow, I lost it. It was like a little camping pillow. It was very light. Lightweight things you keep with you. Um, obviously stuff for like cosmetics and things for showering. Having places to shower. I can use the gym because I have a membership, and that was another thing I was thinking. Um, you know, like as a charity, how much would it cost to buy every single homeless person around the Commons a membership to the Planet Fitness on Winter Street so that they could just take a shower? If I had enough money in my nonprofit, I would do it. Maybe we should start raising more money. I'll buy every single homeless person, an ongoing, continuing funds. If we continue to get funds, start for a year. We'll buy them as $10. We'll buy them all a membership, Planet Fitness, and they can all go in and use the facilities, take showers. Who knows? Maybe they'll work out. Maybe they'll get swolled up. I don't know. So that was another big thing. It's been real beneficial for me. So the most important thing I think for people, especially people that are chronically homeless and you know they're out there, is just having the material needs so that they can get through from day to day. And then from there, you got to stack on all the more important emotional and psychological needs. The things I've seen, kind of like when I think back on it, it is upsetting. And, some people struggle with, real physical and psychological um, shortcomings. I don't know what to say. But there's like, for example, there's a couple, there's two women, and they're a couple, and one woman's in a wheelchair, and the other woman pushes her around, and like they're two beautiful souls, and they take care of each other, and they just live out in the street, um, and they deserve better care. And when I think about it, when I see them, it hurts to see that and to think that. It hurts to think that like any of these people have to be stuck out in the cold. So my situation's a little different. But if I could take what I learn and, I can get enough people to rally around and we could come together and find ways to provide the things that these people need. If even if they choose to live, they want to live out in the street, they want to live outside, should have the things that they can live comfortably enough. They can feel connected enough so that they don't have to suffer from that emotional hurt, being abandoned by society. So there's that. Um, So yeah, going forward, I'm heading into Framingham. I'm definitely going to come back to Boston. I still have a lot of work to do out there. I'm going to travel out west for a while until it gets too cold, and then I'm going to come back. I'll still come home, visit family and things, play handball with my friends. I'm in the process of building out the resource sheets. So, like, there'll be one for Framingham, there'll be one for Boston. It's going to be a lengthy process. I don't know if how fast I can get any substantial spreadsheets out. But hopefully, within like between 3 and 6 months, I'm hoping I can really get a better understanding. And I'm gonna open that up. I'm gonna open all my resource sheets up to the homeless as well. Like all this stuff is gonna be um, open source for anybody that can use it or need it. Um, I think what else do I got? Hmm. Oh, there is this one thing I do want to touch on. There's like a lot of things that I can't record. I just don't have time to record it, but I've seen a lot of tension and aggression in the streets of Boston. More so than what I'm used to. It's a tense atmosphere, and I think not only like in Boston itself is the atmosphere tense. It's fast moving. Everybody's self focused. People get in other people's ways, but it definitely pours over on the homeless, and the stress is real out there. So like seeing that there's been different altercations and things that I've wanted to record, but it's just like there's a lot of peace and there's a lot of togetherness, but there's a lot of tension and strife, and it's really felt. And then I think to myself, is it like an underlying theme in society of if you're not doing well, if you're at the lowest rung of the socioeconomic ladder, do you become the sponge? Like like are you the one that absorbs all that? Because I just see a lot of pent up, hurt, anger, and aggression in a lot of homeless people. Um, there are a lot of really cool, good moments in the churches, in the workshops, sometimes on the street with certain people, but the pain does come through. In our society, is that the goal? Is that the goal? You're rich enough, and you're stable enough, material wealth wise, and you can pretend like that this type of stuff doesn't exist. Because what I can say for sure is that that's a harsh reality every day for a person living homeless in the street. And I'm fresh into this. I don't know over time if it's going to break me down, but it's definitely a real thing. And I think after somebody experiences that for months, years, years upon years upon years, like what does that do to a person's spirit? What does it do to a person's psyche? And is it reversible? So, like, that's been a big question in my mind. I firmly believe that there's always going to be people that are stuck in that predicament where you are homeless. If you can't make it work out there in the world, you don't have family or money or whatever to have a place, it's really expensive. We have this real estate hike. Everything's, ridiculously expensive to live. You can't afford houses or condos or any of that stuff. So when we find that more people are getting broken down by this world and funneling into the street, where are the resources going to be? Because you got your choice: live in a shelter, go through that process, which isn't fun, or you can live in the street. I actually honestly prefer to live in at this time, in this stage, it's not cold out. I prefer to stay in the street, and I'm coming off of comfortable living. So I feel that this country should put more effort into creating resources for people that are stuck living in the street. Like bigger places, like open places where people can come and go and sleep that are have cameras everywhere and lights and maybe an attendant or two to check on and make sure everything's all right with rules. No drug use, no abuse. You sleep here, you can leave during the day. That's fine. Like the Boston Night Center, but the Boston Night Center is all locked up. So yeah, like, you know, I really do feel for the people, and it's definitely sinking in. And it was a little exciting, but I think over time it's definitely going to seep into me, and it's going to become more difficult. So the best I can do is I'm just going to keep pushing forward and be resourceful and get the tools that I need to survive. I'll try to start doing more lives, and I'll kick out, more videos of the stuff that I'm using. Like I did it way in the beginning before this started. I like took pictures of all the stuff that I bought, but I'll go through all the stuff I have now, which is light. I can carry it all on my back, and show you different ways that we figure out how to survive. Oh, and I started smoking cigarettes again. I'd quit and I started again, so shame on me. But I don't know, it's a small joy in a dark world. So I'm not going to bore you anymore with my ramblings, but it's good to get a lot of that stuff out and discuss what's going to go on for the future here. I will be calling out for more help if more people are interested in getting involved. And I want to open this up to the public more. So that is going to be coming. So I'm going to wish you all a good night. If anybody has anything else to say, that'd be cool. If not, thank you very much. And I'm signing off. Once I figure it out how to do that.